9/11, the board meeting is in session, and a late scratch. He did not make weight. John Deal, Speaker of the House in waiting. We got a call late, like 15 minutes ago, saying that he is not going to be able to do it. So I will be holding up the conservative values of this panel. Joining us here in studio, Tony Messenger, for those who are not watching at STLtoday.com, holding up a sign saying veto John Deal. We'll get to all of that here.
Wow, this is what happens when you don't show up.
Tony Messenger joining us via Skype from the world headquarters of Lee Enterprises at STLtoday.com. Good morning, Tony Messenger.
Can we hear him?
Oh, see, screw around. Soon you won't be around. We have a little bit of a glitch problem here. And you know what? Now he hung up on me. Technology being what it is, that part is not sponsored by Taliesin Technologies. That part was sponsored by McGraw-Millhaven here on the Big 550 KTRS. We'll get Tony Messenger back here in a second. So John Deal is out. Tony Messenger is in. And then, of course, we're going to check in with Jane Duker here, who is former chief of staff to Governor Holden and all-around gadfly. Let's start with the Ritz-Carlton case.
Yeah.
Because I still cannot get it out of my head. I still cannot believe that this man broke into a building and broke into a room, lied down with a 9-year-old girl, and somehow he got off. Explain this to me, lawyer Jane Duker.
Well, it's hard, and I guess unless you sit and listen to all the evidence, it's not perfect. But it seems to me that the undisputed facts were that the guy was really, really drunk. The Ritz-Carlton gave him a bad key. He went into a wrong room thinking he was maybe in a different hotel.
Broke into the room
and got into a bed with a 9-year-old girl and, basically admitted that he thought it was, an adult woman who, he had a chance with. And, now I understand there was some crazy stuff where a cop put something on a police report that wasn't said on the tape or in the interview. Right. And there were some things out there, and I'm sure it wasn't perfect, but if the guy were sober, we wouldn't even be having this conversation.
If the guy were sober, he'd be in jail.
Right. And I just don't know where we've come to that being drunk is a defense to molestation.
Why did they not charge him with breaking and entering? Just simple breaking and entering.
I don't know. I mean, I'm sure the prosecutor tries to look at everything and determine sort of what the best way and the best charges to make. And, I would think that based on undisputed facts, they thought that they had probably charged it right. And, it just, and I know, I'm sure people were thinking, he was really drunk and he didn't mean to molest a girl, but that doesn't matter. You meant to cuddle.
So many people have
happened to be a girl.
Oh, I feel bad for the guy. What about the family and the girl?
Right.
Tony Messenger, what are your thoughts? Tony, can you hear me?
I don't feel bad for the guy at all. I'm a father, and the whole story just disgusts me. But like Jane, I having covered a lot of trials, I have to be careful to say I didn't cover the trial, so I don't know all of the details to where I can really judge what the jury came up with. But my best guess is that where the biggest failing is in the prosecutor deciding what to charge them with, because I just have a hell of a time believing that there wasn't something to convict this guy of, and maybe the family, the victims, whatever, were uncomfortable with a lower level assault, and so they went big. But ultimately, that this guy got away with what he did, and he clearly did something, and that there was no guilty plea or guilty conviction. It's a travesty.
What I find fascinating is, and I've heard a lot of people talk about this, and Jane, maybe you can touch on this. Tony, you follow this stuff much more closely than most of us, but if a jury needs CSI type evidence, right? These television shows are ruining juries because they think, oh my goodness, there has to be a smoking gun. What more evidence do you need that this guy inappropriately touched a girl by getting naked and lying in bed with her?
Right.
What more evidence do you need?
Right. And I do think too that, sometimes I think juries have probably unrealistic expectation about what reasonable doubt is. I mean, reasonable's not, or beyond a reasonable doubt, is not all evidence points one way. Nothing is ever that perfect, and that's why you have juries. But yeah, I can't fathom that they weren't able to sort of see through, what was important and what wasn't. And the bottom line is he did something drunk that he could have never gotten away with sober. To me, it's that simple.
Tony Messenger, who go ahead, Tony.
McGraw, you talk about the CSI effect. I've talked to prosecutors about that, and I'm talking. This has been going on for several years. The last major murder trial I covered, I remember talking to it was a special prosecutor, Morley Swingle, out of Cape Girardeau, who was prosecuting a case in Boone County, and that is a real problem that prosecutors face with juries, because they watch all of these cop shows in which there is this expectation that there is going to be some perfect line of DNA that ultimately proves the case. And in most cases, that's just simply not the case.
Right. All forensic evidence. I mean, they assume that everything will get tied up in a bow with perfect forensic evidence. You watch Bones, you watch CSI, and there's always a perfect answer. And there isn't in real life.
Bob McCullough said on the show the next day, we had him on the show, and he said, if the guy were drunk and got into a car and crossed a double yellow line and killed the girl, nobody would have sympathy for him.
Absolutely.
But because he got naked and crawled into bed with her drunk, somehow their sympathy for him makes no sense to me.
Right. Me either. I mean, I'm one of those people that were enraged, and a lesser charge. That doesn't make it okay.
Tony Messenger, who would have thought that Daniel Hughes at the end of that trial would not be in jail, and Scott Rosenblum, the lawyer, would be in jail?
Well, that's the other part of this story that just makes it bizarre. Rosenblum gets picked up on suspicion of DUI the next, I guess that night. Unlike some people, I tend to have I don't have any sympathy for Mr. Rosenblum's client. I do tend to have sympathy for defense attorneys, because in covering trials, everybody deserves a defense attorney. That's right. The nature of our judicial system. Even the guy that I've got no sympathy for deserves a defense attorney. So I don't take any joy in the fact that Rosenblum gets busted the next day. I do have to mock him a little bit, though, for the ridiculous answers he gave apparently to the cops and to the press when asked about drinking. Oh, I was tired. I was so tired. I worked so hard. It's hard driving a Bentley in Ladue. I'm so tired. I'm so tired. You know what? Just cop to it. You screwed up. Don't ruin your entire reputation as a top defense attorney by asking us to buy this BS story about you being tired.
Well, I don't think it's going to hurt Scott's career. The bottom line is, he was a good lawyer. I can't blame the defense attorney in a bad way with the fact that Hughes got off.
Right.
That's his job.
That's what he does.
That's his job.
That's where the jury's at fault.
I'm a little ticked at the jury.
Lucas here. No late scratch with John Deal. When we come back, we have a lot more to get to. We want to talk about the death penalty from Oklahoma. The tax cut was vetoed, as well as John Deal wants to be vetoed, or Tony Messenger is trying to veto John Deal. We'll get to all of that. And hemp oil might be legal here in the state of Missouri. That all coming up here on the Big 550 KT.